All right, I think I see all board members present either virtually or in person. So I want to call the East Greenbush Central School District Board of Education meeting to order, 7 p.m. Board members present live, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Mann, Ms. Muth, Mr. Yabo, myself. Virtually, we have Ms. Massey, Ms. Taylor, Ms. Curtin, and Ms. Komersky coming in virtually, and several administrators. So welcome to our meeting tonight. With that, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. As we do in the beginning of our meetings, we have student council to get us up to speed on what they're doing. Hey, Ryan. Hey, Katie. I saw the school. The lobby looks good. Dressed in green, and I'm sure you'll talk about that. So I will turn it over to Katie or Ryan.
Hi. So we just have two quick updates. Our first thing is that this week we started our hot chocolate sales. And so far on just Monday and Tuesday, we've raised a little bit over $200 for Make-A-Wish. So we're hoping to double that by the end of Friday. And hopefully if it goes well, we'll either continue it or we're going to start looking into a different charity event in the next coming months. And I'll hand it off to Ryan to talk about our decorations.
Thank you. Today after school, we completely decorated the lobby and the second floor for St. Patrick's Day, and now the school looks very festive. And that is all we have for you tonight.
Yeah, we're just working on some volume quickly here so we can hear you. That's all. Were you all done, Ryan? I wasn't sure.
Oh, yes, I was all done.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, we're working on the volume, like I said, so we couldn't tell when you signed off. So we're on the decorations and the lobby looks good.
Yes, and that's all we have.
Painting the town green. Love it. All right. Any other things from student council? All right, we'll move on to the next section then, and we'll go to our public forum. As indicated in previous board meetings, while we're virtual, the email is set up for the public to communicate. Residents, students, employees, and business representatives of the East Greenbush Central School District may address the board on matters concerning programs and or operations of the district other than matters involving personnel. Members of the board do not directly respond to citizen concerns during the public forum. If a response is appropriate, either the president or superintendent will contact the individual in the near future. Those persons wishing to address the board will be recognized by the chair of the meeting and should state for the record their name and address or affiliation with the district or business. So in those emails, please include that information. While the board does not wish to infringe upon free speech protections, it must be stressed that the visitors forum is not deemed to be an open forum. The board president will conduct the forum for the orderly and efficient operation of board business. In addition, any remarks which be considered defamatory or stigmatizing or prohibited will be declared out of order. So typically, Ms. Wagner, Wigger will read some.
There are no public comments at this time.
Okay. So just so folks know that are listening, we do have a second public forum. I do want to acknowledge that we have received emails from our public on a variety of issues. Typically, those issues have ranged from the opening of school, reopening of the elementary, and the concerns expressed about the reopening plan. And we hope tonight to answer some of your questions based on our agenda. I also want, if you can see it in front of me, because the camera's kind of far, I have letters and cards. I just want to recognize, acknowledge that our student athletes, cheerleaders, and others thanking the Board of Education and I want for allowing them the ability, especially our seniors, to have a senior night and to have the ability to participate in athletics. When I read some of the cards and notes that I was able to open before the meeting, it meant a lot to them to be able to come back and participate in something, especially given the way the year has gone for our seniors. And they really do appreciate that we've been able to do that for our student athletes and our cheerleaders and others. So thank you very much for that. And we're here for you, and like you said, to do those and provide those opportunities for you, and we'll be glad to do it. So thank you very much for that. And if anybody wants to see some of those letters, I'll pass them around in the cards. So thanks again. We'll now move to the board forum. I would like to do, Mr. Simons, if it's okay, would you like to go on first for the advocacy and school reopening guidelines?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank
Mr. Bino. So this evening, we want to provide the board and the public an update on changes that we have made and changes that we anticipate making to the district's current opening plan. The start of kindergarten students attending 5 days per week in person began on March 1st in conversations with our principals and teachers and visits to the school. That transition has gone very successfully. I want to thank the teachers for the warm welcome and the work that they put into helping the students adjust to being back with their new friends or friends that they had only seen virtually in class, and everything went very, very well. Today, March 10th, was the first day of the one cohort of students at the K-5 level attending an additional day in person this week, to be followed by next week's A cohort attending in person. That start today went very well, and the students and the staff transitioned very, very successfully. Additionally, leading up to today, the district has made a number of changes to include students who need additional support to be able to come in at the elementary, middle school, and high school for more in-person days. That has occurred on virtual Wednesdays. It has also occurred on students' remote days based on student needs. For example, students who require special education programming, students who require English as a new language services, students who need more direct support to engage in learning. And we've been able to make those adjustments because we've had the need and we've had the space. Today, I am very pleased to inform the board of a recommendation that over the last several weeks we have been studying and reviewing. We would like to bring all of our first graders who are currently participating in the hybrid program and all of our second graders back to 5 days of in-person instruction. We have some work to do to make the arrangements for that transition to go successfully. That work would include some classroom changes, reassignment of classes, really in most of our buildings. We need to make adjustments to the way we deliver the art music program, and in some cases library program, because we will be moving some of the classrooms to those spaces because they're larger. There's an analysis that's been done of the rooms, the number of students currently in the rooms, the number of students in each of the grade levels in each of the respective buildings who would be coming back. The board is aware that that analysis was done in July and August, and we moved furniture, we moved desks, we moved bookshelves, and we made adjustments to the classroom space. We've had to make further adjustments, or will have to make further adjustments in order to begin this change. There are some permanent fixtured student cubbies, some other types of bookshelves that we've had our Buildings and Grounds Department review to make sure that those could be moved safely, that those could be moved within current code, including asbestos. There are no asbestos-related issues to moving those cubbies, so there's some work to do. Additionally, we have supported some of these changes with additional part-time and or full-time teaching assistants. When I say part-time, it's only for the remainder of the balance of the school year, so the cost is less than it otherwise would be. for a full school year. So we do need approximately 4 teaching assistants to be able to support this change. And because the lunch periods will be changed, there'll be additional lunch periods in some buildings. We need to increase hire a monitor for a 3-hour period. So these changes are in line with our efforts to provide as much in-person learning as we can for our children who are our youngest learners, which is consistent with the guidance. We're ready to go, effective on March 29th for first grade and on April 13th, which is the day after the spring break for second grade. We want to give our staff time to plan. We want to give our staff, including our teachers and our custodial maintenance staff, time to make the changes. We have some technology issues that need to be addressed in certain spaces that will be used. I would say that these changes are being made well within the parameters of the New York State Department of Health guidelines. Okay, and one of the things I want to be clear about is in the case of the New York State Department of Health, there are regulations, there are requirements that the district had to attest and sign off that we would be following during the beginning of the year. So the principals have been remarkably helpful in putting together this information. The teachers union is informed of the changes. We've had a couple of discussions with the teachers union, including today. The timelines are determined in order to make this change happen successfully. And with the board support, we would like to move forward with our first graders and our second graders coming back in 5 days per week. Again, it's effective March 29th for the first grade, and for the second grade would be soon after the break, the day after the break. So I'd like to ask the board if they have questions or discussions of that. Then I would like to specifically address some of the questions and concerns that we've received regarding social distancing requirements, the flexibility that the district has and does not have related to that, and some of the information that we've been advocating to receive as a district but have yet to receive.
Very good. Is there any questions for Mr. Simons? I'll start in the on the screen, our virtual attendees. Kathleen, Jen, Joanne, Michelle? Nope. Okay. Support? Yes. Good. Good. Deanna, anything? Yes. Frank? Good. Mark, any questions? Good. All right. John's good. I'm good. So yes, excellent news. Let's move forward.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate the board's support. And again, I want to
Absolutely.
thank the teachers and the administrators for working on this. We've received a number of communications from parents since the time that the state approved participation in winter sports, higher risk sports, regarding the requirements for operating our schools during the COVID-19 period. And there has been a lot of discussion regarding the regulations and the guidelines, both within the capital region, within our county, and also across the state. And some of those discussions have also been the subject of media reports. For example, the newspapers in the Syracuse area reported that Onondaga County was permitted to provide schools with a change in the guidance, shortening the social distancing requirements from 6 feet to 3 feet. We also heard that some counties in other areas were advising schools that they had the discretion and the authority to do that, including Westchester County, among others. Every Wednesday each week, Questar BOCES superintendents meet with our county Department of Health director, and we did so again today. Last Wednesday at the meeting, I asked direct questions of the county. Do you have the discretion as a county health agency to permit our school districts to shorten the social distancing requirement from 6 feet to 3 feet so that we can address and respond to the concerns of the parents and the needs of the students? And the answer I received last Wednesday was, we do not. We have talked with other counties about this issue. We have not received any permission from the state, either the governor's office or the New York State Department of Health, to do so. We don't have that discretion, and well, so we can't permit that. I asked that question again today, and I received the same answer. So counties are seeking clarification regarding this issue from the state. They have not received any answers to this question. I personally, nor does our county, know why it is that it has been reported that other counties have this discretion, but we don't right now. We are also planning for the fall. And through our Advocacy Committee, which we'll talk about later, as well as other forums, we are advocating for the guidance and the regulations regarding school reopening to be reevaluated, to be changed, and to be looked at by the New York State Department of Health and the New York State Education Department. We were advised this week that the New York State Education Department has planned to start those discussions. We have not received information as to the status of what the New York State Department of Health is thinking about or planning for September. We are aware of conversations that have occurred with the Department of Health where Commissioner Zucker has indicated that the social distancing requirements and other requirements are being discussed. But there has been no decision and no formal information communicated in any direct manner with counties or schools that we have the ability, either now or in anticipation of September, to shorten the social distancing requirements so we can have more children in. It is mine, and I believe everyone, including our board's desire and interest in having all of our children come back for in-person learning, kindergarten through 12th grade, by September. Everything we are doing is evaluating what we can do to bring more kids in right now, and we are stressing the urgency and the time sensitivity of getting more information from our state so that we can let our families know and our students know what to expect for September. And we are pushing to have a full school reopening, and the budget that I will present to the board later on in this meeting reflects the spending plan that presumes that we will be fully open K through 12.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff. Does anyone have any questions regarding the information Jeff shared? No? Okay. And I think one of the things we're always planning, we're always looking at opportunity, and if something comes through this school year, Mr. Simons, would we be able to shift given that?
We are ready when we are ready to bring all of the kids in for in-person learning when we have the clearance and the direction from the state.
Okay.
I also want to mention that we have started the process of looking at what could be done for grades, the older grades, including the middle school and the high school. And we will be reporting back further information on that to the board and the community. We're looking at student needs. We're looking at number of kids currently in classes. There may be some adjustments to the middle school and the high school so that kids can be brought in for more in-person instruction. We just don't know at this point how many students. So we're coming up with a criteria to really look at student academic performance and their social emotional needs and get an account on those kids, and then figuring out whether or not those children could be scheduled in within the social distancing guidelines.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions? No? No? John?
Just a comment. Jeff, maybe you can take the opportunity. One of the questions I receive pretty regular is, why are all of a sudden...
We can't hear you.
Got a microphone coming.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yep, thumbs up.
One of the questions I receive from the community is, why are we able to start bringing kids back now? Why couldn't we have done that in the fall? And we've had this conversation, but maybe we could remind the folks what has changed in a brief summary.
I think the biggest thing that has changed is the experience of our school district and the school districts with managing our schools and responding to the public health and safety issues while operating our schools. If you go back to July and August, when we first received the guidelines and the regulations from New York State, prior to that, there was a question of whether or not we were going to even be able to open the schools and what was going to happen. Questions about social distancing, questions about classroom capacity, questions about how many students could be on a bus, questions we didn't know as much about the infection of COVID-19 that we do now. There was really a concern that rose to the level of a number of our families and a number of our staff and families of our staff members, that children coming to school would exacerbate, markedly increase the infection rate spread within the school, and children would be going into the community, and children would be going home to their families, where there were older individuals who may be vulnerable to more serious consequences. So that was the discussion in the summer. Should schools reopen, and could we implement these requirements safely? Well, we've shown that we can. Okay, our contact tracing, for example, has indicated that while we have had a number of individual students who have had COVID-19, through the measures that we've taken, we've been able to prevent those cases from becoming issues where the infection has been spread in the school. There is not one case that we could track back through contact tracing where we could say that a staff member or a child got COVID-19 within the school environment. In the cases that we've had, it's all been tracked back to a community spread, something that was contracted within the family. So one thing has changed is now we have the experience. We have the benefit of the experience of the health and safety requirements that we have put in place, and a level of confidence that we can increase the capacity within our schools safely. The other thing that has occurred is we have more optimism regarding our state, our region, and our country's ability to deal with COVID-19. We have high percentages of our staff, I don't know the exact percentage right now, who have been vaccinated. We have more experience with this, and some of the options for providing in-person learning back in the fall were not available. We've had shifts. We've had students who have shifted during various periods of the year from the hybrid program to the full remote program and then back again. So in the fall, we said we're going to have a slow and steady reopening under a hybrid. We talked about the fact that a large percentage of the districts in New York State were opening under a hybrid. And just as we were getting prepared to do what we're doing now, the spike occurred through the holiday spread and into the end of January. We come into the end of January, we start planning, and now we're staging in the the increase in the number of kids coming in at the earliest grade levels. Our most recent analysis indicated that the majority of the buildings now, given the numbers, could accommodate 2 additional grade levels beyond the kindergarten coming in. We decided to do first and second grade because it made sense to get all of our K-2 students in for 5 days of in-person learning right now. We did consider the option of 5th grade, but not all schools could get first grade, second grade, and 5th grade in because of space. So we decided it made more sense to do the K-2 continuum. So in a nutshell, in summary, we've learned a lot about how schools can manage COVID-19. We've gotten through the spike period that occurred during the holidays. We're now in a much more optimistic and safe position regarding what is happening with vaccines, with our management of COVID-19, and the very low infection spread rate in schools. So schools are some of the safest places to be right now. We didn't know that was going to turn out to be true in the fall. And now we have, I think our families feel safer, our kids feel safer, and our staff feels safer making these adjustments now.
Thank you. That was a very good explanation. And I think one of the things that I gather through this experience, everything has been changing daily. But one of the consistent things that we've tried to do as a board and a district and your administration and teachers is maintain our consistency in constantly evaluating and improving the conditions that our students and staff are working under, and with the ultimate goal of bringing kids back to school full time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Now we will go back to item A, board forum for general comments from the board members. I'll start in person. I'll start on my right with Deanna. Anything? Nothing? Frank, anything? Nope. Mark? Good. John, anything else? Good. Jennifer Massey, anything?
I just want to say thank you to the team for working really hard and continuing to work really hard every day to do what we can. I know, John, you said it very eloquently that as a board, our only goal has been to do what we need to do to keep things moving and moving forward, as well as ultimately, right, we would like to see all of the kids back in school, in person, and doing the best that we can to do that has been a struggle this year. And I appreciate the fact that you are ready to move should the guidelines change from the state. And I think that's a great place to be. And this phasing in is getting as many kids back as we possibly can in a safe and appropriate manner without violating any of the regulations. And so, I appreciate you keeping on top of that and doing that with the ultimate goal, obviously for next year, hopefully with September, that we'll be in a position to be able to reopen school in the new school year. But if we can, moving forward this year, bringing back as many kids as we can, as quickly as possible, should, some regulations change as well. So I just wanted to say thank you. We are I've been watching every email and reach out and having lots of chats with parents and others in the community, and, keep the conversation going. We are open to those conversations. I am open to those conversations. And again, ultimately with the goal of keeping everybody safe, getting everybody back as quickly as we possibly can, and still staying within the guidelines that we have. So again, I just want to thank everybody, the entire district, the community for that support.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Joanne, anything?
I do have a few things tonight. Firstly, I want to thank the National Honor Society. Over the past 3 or 4 weeks, they have done a food drive at Columbia. In addition, we have had students volunteer and come down once a week and work with us at the distribution center, packing boxes, sorting the food. I think it's been eye-opening for those kids, and we are going to be getting the food that they're collecting in Mrs. Shatraw's room shortly, so we're excited about that. And happy that they were willing to help, and they're looking to do more. And it's nice to see our kids working side by side like that. Secondly, I had a discussion with our town supervisor, Jack Conway, that I want to share with the board and the community. A couple weeks ago, we had a student, we had some bad weather on a Monday night into Tuesday morning. We had a student have a slight accident going into Columbia. Having experienced some of the side roads around Columbia personally on Monday night myself, I called Mr. Simons and told him I was going to reach out to Mr. Conway with his permission to discuss the conditions of the roads going into Columbia. As many of you know, there are a lot of curvy, windy roads all going into Columbia, Working Road, Michaels Road, Elliott Road. And although some of them are county roads, the majority are town roads. And we had quite a frank talk with Mr. Conway, and quite bluntly, I told him that the town is failing our students when we're giving our most inexperienced drivers roads like that to be on. Before they even come out of school, they've encountered problems, their insurance is up, and the students and their parents who are paying taxes deserve better than that. Mr. Conway was in agreement with me. He said, yes, you are right. We need to do better for the students. And that afternoon was talking to the highway department, and he was going to be following up on those roads. I told him I would be in contact with him as I saw the need, and I encourage other people to. If people want to reach out to me, I can share information also. Just letting everyone know about that. We need to keep our kids safe. Shout out to Sarah Lucier and Belltop. It was great to open today's paper and see the learning barn and the maple syrup happening in our school. Yep. And, that is an important thing of our schools, and that's why we want our kids back. That skill, that fun. My kids saw that learning barn, and they learned and they had fun. And one of the many reasons we need our kids back, but we need to do it safely. And on that note, thank you, administration, teachers, for what you're doing to get our kids back. And we look forward to the day that everyone is back safely in the buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Kathleen?
Not only Sarah Lucier in the paper, but Melanie Light also made it on TV, because I saw the Learning Barn last night also on TV. I'm going to steal a little bit of Mr. Simon's thunder and mention the Advocacy Committee, which now has already met twice, last Monday and this Monday. And we are shifting the focus of the advocacy event that we are looking to plan, and the focus is shifting toward how to get consistent guidance from the state with those Department of Health regulations so that we can start looking to get our kids back into school. So it wasn't just our district, it's a number of districts from our BOCES. The district superintendent from BOCES also joined us. So this is not just us. This is not something that just East Greenbush is suffering with, that there are a lot of other districts who are also having a lot of problems. And we are looking to work together to really get some consistent regulations so that one county is not doing something different than everybody else. Actually, the superintendent of Ichabod Crane, New Lebanon, mentioned that his district actually straddles two different counties, and he literally has to check where a child lives before they do the quarantine regulations for that child, because the two counties have different regulations. So it is not just us. This is something that we need to bring the attention to our leaders at the county level, at the state level, and most importantly, to the governor, we need to start saying we need to get this taken care of.
Thank you, Kathleen. And Michelle? You're good. All right. I don't have any comments. I think what we covered here today is really encouraging news and all the feedback. Thank you, board members. And again, thank you, Jeff and the team, for continuing to make progress towards bringing our students back. I know our parents remind us regularly that we need to do that, and we are, have been talking about this for a long time and continue to talk about it. And I think it's the climate's very encouraging to continue the pace that we're on, and hopefully we get some of that relief like we're hoping to get from the state. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno.
Any closing comments, Mr. Simons?
No, I think Mrs. Curtin covered everything regarding the Advocacy Committee very, very well. So thank you, Kathleen.
Yep. And again, it's just as we hear from you, committee members and families, make sure your legislature hears from you as well. They're all part of this process, and they can, the more they hear from you in the community, the more they'll respond. Okay, so important to do that as well. Moving to our first discussion item, the 2020-2021 fund balance projection. I think Linda's going to do that. Okay, Linda.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Can you hear me? Okay. Can everyone hear me okay? Good. Okay. So tonight I prepared for you a 2020-2021 fund balance projection, and these balances, the actual balances are as of February 27th of this year. Before you, in addition to this memo, there are 8 pages of detailed information, of which I promise not to go through line by line. However, I did want to talk to you about the importance of fund balance and how I came to some of these numbers. So the board adopted policy number 6245, which is fund balance and governmental fund type definitions. And the purpose of this policy is to provide guidance on fund balance. The board recognizes the importance of maintaining a fund balance, and it is essential to the preservation and financial integrity of the school district. We have several categories of fund balance. We have restricted fund balance, non-spendable fund balance, assigned fund balance, and unassigned fund balance. In our restricted fund balances, we have our reserve accounts, our workers' comp, our retirement contributions, employee benefits and accrued liabilities, capital projects, our tax certiorari reserves, and our unemployment reserves. I am projecting, if you go to page 1 of the report itself, I am projecting that there will be no changes in the workers' comp reserve or the employee benefits and accrued liabilities reserve or the unemployment reserve. You will note that we are using $900,000 of our ERS retirement contribution reserve, which was part of the budget for this year. So we planned that use. The changes that I'm estimating in the capital projects reserve is due to we record the state aid that we receive on our bus purchases. We record that state aid in the capital reserve, and we also report the expenditures for the current year buses. So that's the reason for the change. And the estimated change in tax certiorari reserves are the settlement of the tax cert reserves that we have, the tax litigations, and then new litigations that are filed with the district. So all in all, in the total restricted fund balance, I expect that there will be a change of a negative $966,432. Our prepaid, our non-spendable fund balance is basically for prepaid expenditures, and that is prepaid insurance, basically. So those are insurance bills that have come in June that we pay, but they're for the following year. Our assigned fund balance is made up of our unappropriated assigned fund balance and our appropriated assigned fund balance. Our unappropriated assigned fund balance is our encumbrances for the year. At the end of the year, those are our obligations at the end of the year where we have entered into purchase agreements. We have POs in place, and that represents that balance at the end of the year. We typically carry between 350,000 and 400,000 at the end of a school year. Last year was a little bit higher. You'll notice it was $441,325, and that was due to the fact that we started purchasing as much PPE supplies as possible. And then our appropriated assigned fund balance is the amount that we appropriate to help fund to offset the tax levy for the next year's budget. So that has not changed, and that will remain at $6,829,322. So then our unassigned fund balance, this is the portion of fund balance that is subject to our 4% limitation. So at June 30th of 2020, we carried an unassigned fund balance of $5,671,424, which represented 5.68% of this year's budget. So that was over the 4%, but you will remind you that we had conversations about carrying forward excess fund balance because we didn't know what we were going to face in this year. So on the next few pages, there are detailed informations of revenue, our actual revenue from last year, our budgeted revenue for this year, our year-to-date revenue as of February 27th, and then what I project our revenue will be as of 6/30. You will note that I am projecting that our revenue will end at $94 million, which is actually above our estimated revenue before our appropriated fund balance. And the reason for that is some of the items that are a little higher than expected, than originally estimated, are state aid. Our state aid numbers are coming in a little bit higher. I've also estimated that we will get some of the FEMA reimbursement money that we applied for. We have submitted an application for $311,000. And I'm hoping, I estimated in there $250,000 after they review. So we haven't received any notification on that yet. Then some of the revenue categories have declined, and that's because our buildings have not been open to the public this year. We are not providing bus transportation for the field trips for the towns that happened during the summer. So some of our revenues items are down, others are up, but I do expect it to end around the $94 million mark. Our expenditures, on the other hand, our expenditures I expect will come in less than budget, below budget. Our total expenditures I expect to come in around $96.7 million. The way I came to that is I looked at the expenses that we have so far. So the 10-month employees have been paid for 6 months of salary already. The 12-month employees have been paid for 8 months of salary already. So I projected the balance of those salaries out. And I also looked at our actual expenditure so far this year as compared to last year, as compared to the year before. So while I expect that we will come in under budget, I still expect that our expenditures will be higher than our revenue. So therefore, it will be a decrease in our fund balance. But if you go back to page 1, the ending unassigned fund balance that I project is at about $3.9 million, and that puts us back in that 3 to 4% range of the following year's budget, as is determined by the board. So that's basically what I did. I can go into much more detail if you have any questions, or I can answer any questions that anybody has.
Any questions, board members? No?
Okay.
No, I
Thank
think it's a good information. It's excellent information. It gives us a really good picture of where we stand, where we project, and how we compare to previous years. And I think this is really helpful information for our public to see where the expenditures are, what our revenue picture looks like, the reserves that we tapped into, and then potentially what are we looking at for next year that's available to be tapped into if we need.
Thank you. I also suggested that perhaps I do another one of these maybe in May,
Okay.
because I want to look at where we're at, and perhaps we can take some of those expenses that we're projecting for next year and
Bring 'em
try
into
to
this
get them
year.
into this year.
Yep.
But we'll need to get further into the year for that.
Sounds good. Well, let's plan on a May meeting then to review that and see what we can do to shift some things to this year if possible. Thank you, Linda. We always appreciate the detail and the level of transparency on the information that you're sharing, and it's great for our community to see how our fiscal matters are being managed. So, moving on from discussion items, we'll go to committee reports, and we'll start with Marissa. Nothing from Marissa. Linda, you want to take a break and I'll go to Jim, or you want to go ahead? She's going ahead. Okay.
I will
Go ahead. Thank
quickly
you.
report that we had a BRAC meeting on Monday, February 22nd.
Yep.
And at that meeting, we had a few guests, Philomena Prinzo and Christine Hennessy, our local realtors. And they joined us and they talked to us a lot about the market right now and how this East Greenbush School District is appealing to people moving in from the other areas. And we have some families moving into the area, so that's all positive news for us. We also had Josh Tossi is from the CDRPC, the Capital District Regional Planning Commission, and he went over the 2020-2021 enrollment projection report, and I believe we talked about having him come to a future meeting and make a further presentation for you on this. That's all I had.
Yep, and everyone should have received either electronic or hard copy of the CDRPC report on enrollment, which is great information in there about our projections and what we anticipate for our enrollments for potentially for next year, which could be pretty big. Right. Moving on to Mr. McHugh. Jim?
I just want to provide the board with a quick update on the UAlbany collaboration with our East Greenbush teachers. We've had 4 professional development sessions as of today. That's 12 hours of professional development, classroom instruction that's been delivered to our teachers. We've had about 36 to 38 of our faculty members participate in these sessions. A real positive is that our elementary principals have been engaging in those sessions as well. I think it sets a great example for our teachers to see our building administrators involved. Those sessions have really focused on the importance of teacher expertise and delivering high quality instruction for early literacy. In addition to the 4 3-hour sessions, whole group sessions, Dr. Scanlon and Peggy Connors have visited our elementary buildings to provide embedded support to our teachers in their classroom. And each professional development session has been recorded. What is nice is that we were limited in regards to how many faculty members we could have participate in this collaboration. There is additional teachers that are interested. The sessions have been recorded. We put them in a Google Drive, and we have additional teachers accessing those recordings and watching those sessions as well. So we're off to a good start. I believe Mark Adams working on a communication piece that will go out to our school community soon.
Thanks, Jim. Great initiative. Any questions for Jim on the collaboration? No? Good. Again, another activity to help our younger learners and how we can support them, which will be so critical as we return to school. Mr. Simons on the advocacy?
I think we've covered that topic. Other than to mention, we were joined by a number of new parents on the committee.
Oh, great.
Including elementary parents and a parent who is a parent of an elementary, middle school, and high school student. So we have more parents on our advocacy committee, and they're going to work with us.
Nice.
To pull together that forum.
Awesome. Very good. Looking forward to that.
I also, on that really quick, Mike, I also
Sure.
just want to mention that we've also got a bunch of high school students on that committee, including one that is involved in one of our CTE programs through BOCES, so that we're trying to get a wide variety of students to use their voices too to help us make our point.
Yeah, very good. They always want to hear from the students, right? Excellent. Moving on to the approval of draft minutes for February 24th. All board members were present. Mr. Mann was a little bit late. Any questions, comments, or revisions to the minutes? Seeing none, I need a motion to approve that. Joanne, I need a second. Frank? All those in favor? Approved. Moving to our next item, regular business, approval of programs for resident children with disabilities. Any questions or comments? No? Need a motion to approve that. Deanna, I need a second. Kathleen, all those in favor? Approved. Next item is the employment agreement for the Director of Human Resources. Any questions or comments on that? No? Need a motion to approve? Mark, second. John, all those in favor? Approved. Congratulations, Marissa. And then the next item is the amendment to the employment contract with the Superintendent of Schools. Any questions or comments on that? No? Need a motion to approve that? John, second. Kathleen, all those in favor? Approved. Congratulations, Mr. Simon.
Thank you to the board for the support. I appreciate it very much.
And we also want to, again, extend our thanks for your service to our district and the fact that this year you did not take an increase in your salary. It just shows that you do care about the district, you care about our kids, and we feel that your leadership has been instrumental in getting us through this pandemic and that with your team. So again, thank you for all your service and leading the district.
Thank you very much.
With that, we get to put you on the spot about the budget, right? So preliminary
Okay.
discussions, 21-22 budget discussions. We'll move to Mr. Simons will go up in front of the camera and present to the community and to the board our very preliminary first round of how we're going to do the budget. So this is our first budget workshop.
I'm going to try to present this in a way that everyone can hear me and also see the slides. I am vaccinated, so if it's okay with Mr. Dunn and Mr. Mann, I'm going to remove my mask temporarily to do that. Very good. So I have worked with Linda Wager and our principals and our administrative team, among others, to put together what we would consider to be a very preliminary budget. And I think the board is aware that in years past, when we do our initial presentation of the budget, we generally do not have a full accounting of what our projected revenues will be for next year, nor do we know all of the details regarding our expenditures. So we would anticipate that this is a first brush at the budget, that there will be changes based on the board's feedback this evening, as well as any other information that comes from the state. But this kind of gives you a framework for our starting point. I will say that this is my fourth budget in East Greenbush. It is my 14th budget as a school superintendent, and I've never developed a budget during a pandemic. So there are a lot of unknowns typically at this time of year. There are even more unknowns because we have to presume that we're going to be operating in September with all of our children in K through 12, and we've made some assumptions that some of the requirements will still be in place, but we don't know the scale of those requirements, and I'll explain that as we go along. So again, this is very preliminary. I'd like to start by just reminding the community that each and every year, our Board of Education, our administrative team, and our staff, we revisit the board's goals. And when we present the spending plan for next year, the first thing we look at are the categories at which we propose to offer the budget to the community aligned with the board's direction of where the board would like the district to head. So we look at our board goals to put together priorities. We also want the budget to be an opportunity to celebrate all of the great accomplishments of our students, of our faculty and staff. And particularly this year, as we have approached the budget, we really want to credit the remarkable work of everyone in the educational community. And when we use that term, educational community, we maybe haven't thought about it in the same way as we have since March of last year. We're talking about every single student in our district, kindergarten through 12th grade, coming from all different backgrounds with all different needs, who are doing a great job under extraordinarily difficult circumstances. We're talking about every single parent at every level who's contributing to their child's education, maybe even more so than they have in the past because of the nature of which learning and teaching is occurring right now. And so our parents and our students are a reflection of the educational community and important contributors to our overall district's efforts. And we have our teachers, extraordinarily talented teachers, some who've received statewide and regional recognition. And we have a great team of administrators, including our central administration, our principals, who help us operate the district and have done a remarkable job during this period. Our tremendously talented and dedicated support staff, our members of our SRP, our CSEA, our school nurses, our secretaries, our security folks, our monitors, our teaching assistants, custodial maintenance, grounds, everyone. If I missed a group, I'll come back to it later. Everyone is contributing to this educational community under very difficult circumstances, and we're all looking forward to what the budget may bring and the school year might bring for September. So we've got a lot to highlight, and we've got a lot to appreciate, and we've got a lot to be proud of as we put together this spending plan. We also look at historical information. Ms. Wager mentioned tonight that we look at prior year's expenditures, we look at prior year's revenues, and we try our best to predict or estimate what those revenues are going to look like and those expenditures are going to look like in future years. We have a tax cap. We're going to explain to the best of our ability, and I'm going to have to defer this explanation to Linda Wager, because generally we refer to the tax cap as a 2% tax cap, but it really is unique to every district, and there's a specific formula which the tax cap is calculated. And as we reported at the last board meeting, our tax cap is very low this year because we anticipate increases in payment in lieu of taxes revenues to be received from the district, and particularly associated with large increases in pilots associated with Regeneron development. So, and we have our projections in revenues, which are subject to change at this point between now and April 14th, when the Board of Education is tentatively scheduled to adopt the proposed budget, and May 18th, which is, we anticipate, will be the vote date at which our budget and board election will go out to the community, and we'll highlight the important dates. So in light of our board's goals, the board continues to stress the importance of focusing on academic excellence. Academic excellence for those students who are working their way through the school district at the elementary level, where we talk about our performance being well above the state average. As our students are transitioning into middle school, making sure that our courses provide not only an opportunity for kids who are anticipating moving into the high school and going to college, but also students that may be anticipating different types of careers that are available right here in the region that may not require a four-year college. It may require some technical school training or some level of postgraduate training and experience, but not necessarily a four-year college. And our board has emphasized that we define academic excellence in East Greenbush as making sure that every student has an opportunity and a pathway to success. Additionally, we want to make sure that not only our educational services are being coordinated effectively, but that our staffing and our financial resources are aligned to what we want to accomplish. So when we hire individuals for all positions, we want to recruit the best. We want to support them through training and support so that they continue to grow and contribute to the district. And we want to make sure that we can budget to be able to meet our academic goals by making sure that we have well-supported and trained people delivering the services to the students in the community. We work very intentionally at facilitating positive relationships with our families, our parents, business organizations in the community. We have a business advisory committee that works with our district on partnerships that enable us to help our kids and our staff understand what requirements are needed for children to enter into various career fields. We also have great partnerships through our Questar BOCES and many of our local and state colleges that help us offer different programs and opportunities and services to the kids. And we want to remain a progressive, innovative, and safe school and environment. And within the last couple of years, we have not only focused on physical safety, making sure that our security systems, our procedures, our safety plans are up to date and that people are well trained in those areas, but also making sure that we have a welcoming, inclusive school climate, which includes some very intentional work being done by our Committee for Global Education on issues around diversity of our student population and our families. So those are the board's goals. We revisit them every year, and we align our spending plan with those 4 broad areas of expectation shaped by our board. In the area of academic highlights, 90% of our class that graduated last year went on to college and or vocational school. And Columbia High School was recently announced that we maintained our 97% graduation rate, which is one of the highest graduation rates in the capital region. I don't know exactly where we rank right now. Last year we were in the top 3. I know that we are in the top 5 regarding graduation rate in our region. Columbia High School and Red Mill Elementary School have also been recognized by New York State Education Department as recognition schools for not only high academic performance in state standard areas such as English language arts and math, but in closing the gap in performance between students who are typically considered economically disadvantaged and all students and other special populations of students. Not only are all of our kids doing well, but in these particular buildings, these buildings have been recognized because they're closing the gap in groups that across the state tend to trend a little bit lower in terms of their academic performance when compared to all students. So we congratulate Columbia High School, who's received this recognition twice, and Red Mill School, who received it last year. All of our schools in New York State are considered in good standing, and that comes about through the work of Mr. McHugh, our principals, and the excellent instruction and support provided in each of our buildings by our teachers and our support staff. We are higher than the state average in all categories, and we monitor areas at which we expect to see further growth under the ESSA, which is the federal law that requires us to continually make improvements. Additionally, last year, we were very proud to recognize at our board meeting our Columbia High School English teacher, Chelsea Dyer, who was named a finalist for New York State Teacher of the Year. That is not something that is accomplished lightly. There is a lot of work in the application that is submitted by Chelsea and the district to nominate her. And she has been recognized as one of the best teachers in New York State. So we congratulate Chelsea. Additionally, the New York State School Boards Association publication on board featured Kelly Giagni as one fine example of how our district is delivering instruction through a virtual format. She is a Janae Elementary teacher, and she has been recognized for her contributions to our current hybrid plan. So congratulations to Chelsea and to Kelly, who are among all of our teachers and all of our staff who do an extraordinarily good job and who we could not be doing what we're doing right now without their talent, without their commitment to our schools. We also reached out more so than in the past, this past year, to make sure that our families who are in need of food and other services could have that need met by our school district. Under Mike Leonard, Audrey DeBacco, and many others, Columbia High School operated a community food pantry Sorry, am I standing in your way, Mark? Okay. Operated a community food pantry, which provided for the needs of our families and really anybody in the community. And our backpack programs that are operating in several of our schools continue to provide breakfast and lunch for the families that those schools serve. In addition, we've had a number of community organizations, businesses, and individuals contribute donations to our board to specifically fund these backpack programs that are serving such an important need in the community and building positive relationships with our families. Additionally, we have an opportunity for our students that we provide in our high school for students not only to receive college credit courses through college agreements, but also AP credits. And we have a couple of unique partnerships, one with Siena College, which will enable high school students to start a track to get a master's in business administration. After graduating from high school, they can go to Siena, and after 4 years, they can get their MBA as opposed to a traditional 5-year or more track. Additionally, last year, we announced a similar partnership with Russell Sage College, where our kids who may want to go into education can begin to start to take college credit coursework here at Columbia, move into a pathway at Russell Sage, and get their master's degree, which is the requirement of New York State, within 5 years. Among other partnerships, UAlbany was mentioned tonight, Hudson Valley Community College, a large percentage of our graduating seniors go to Hudson Valley. We have a number of unique arrangements with Hudson Valley for college courses, and we'll be announcing with Questar a brand new opportunity in our region for Columbia and other districts, students to participate in through an early college high school program and a P-TECH program in just a couple of weeks. Questar 3 BOCES, we are active participants and partners in the Questar 3, which provides instructional programs in career and technical education, including Tech Valley High School. We anticipate about 9 students will be at Tech Valley High School next year, which is a program that teaches kids project-based learning so that they can move into various STEM fields. And we serve in leadership roles on the Rensselaer County Chamber of Commerce, which has provided a lot of information to our teachers to provide kids with information regarding what is happening in the workforce, including opportunities for mentors from the business fields to provide video support and other activities to help our kids better understand careers that are available to them or that they might consider pursuing as they move into high school and graduate. We offer progressive, innovative, and safe learning environments for our students. We have made changes this year to the way that we deliver, for example, instrumental music, but we are offering strings instruction, band instruction, and vocal choral instruction to all of our kids at the middle school and the high school, and we're hoping to see some further changes in that. So some schools have been constrained by the regulations to a point that they were not able to do this. We have been able to do it. We set up our classrooms in a way that are socially distanced, that are safe, and we started as part of our emphasis on acceptance, inclusion, and diversity, a No Place for Hate program at Goff Middle School and one at the high school, which focuses on what can the kids do, what can the staff do, what can the community do to make sure that every child is respected, feels safe, welcome, and supported in the learning environment within the school. We are transitioning into sharing a little bit about our fiscal plan. Our guidelines for next year, we believe, are aligned with the board's expectation. We want to provide resources within our budget to support a full school reopening. And while we don't have the regulations and we don't exactly know what's going to happen in September of next year, we know that we're going to have to build in the resources in order to be able to fully open. Additionally, we know that due to the experiences of our students, that there will be learning gaps and there may be more children than typical who need such services as academic intervention and potentially summer programming. And we're working on addressing that. And on March 24th, I expect that Mr. McHugh will be presenting a summer school model for the board to consider as part of the budget for next year. Additionally, the board expects us to deliver services as efficiently and effectively as possible. And as we've been discussing where we might be for next year, we are monitoring what is happening with staff retirements. We're evaluating positions. The budget at this point doesn't include reductions in positions. It doesn't include cuts in programs, but we are looking at ways to do things as efficiently and effectively as we can. And as you heard this evening, we are using resources that have been set aside by the board and the district in the current budget, and we are monitoring how much money will be unspent at the end of this year that could potentially be allocated to offset program cuts or potential increases to the tax levy. So the board has been fiscally responsible in setting aside resources to a point where we are considered by the New York State Comptroller to be a fiscally stable district. We want to maintain that fiscal stability by making sure that we balance educational needs, staffing costs, with not only the short-term revenues that we anticipate for next year, but preserving the district's fiscal condition so that when we have to borrow money or when we come to a situation where we are in a true emergency, we have the money to be able to address that without hurting the kids. Historically, we track the New York State tax cap. Last year, the tax cap was 1.68%. You can see that in various years, including going back about 7 years, the tax cap was up as high as 4.15. For next year, we are projecting that the tax cap was that high. The tax levy of that year was only about 0.32. So every year and each year, as we've monitored our tax cap formula, the board has kept the tax levy increase under what was allowable by New York State law. And we intend to do the same thing for next year. Last year, it was 1.68%. So we strive to keep our budget under the tax cap in terms of the tax levy. The tax base of East Greenbush is relatively stable. You heard the report on the Budget and Review Advisory Committee where our realtors have indicated that the property values within East Greenbush are stable. This year, going into next year, one of the factors that is used to calculate the tax cap is called the tax base growth factor. It's remaining relatively stable. It's not going up very much. It's not going down. We expect that the property values will remain relatively stable, which is a factor calculated into the cap. Additionally, New York State law says that districts can raise taxes either up to 2% or at the rate of inflation, which is considered to be the consumer price index. Each and every year over the course of the last 7 or 8 years, the CPI has been less than the 2%. So when we call it a 2% tax cap, it really isn't. In many cases, the districts are required to be under that 2% because of the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. This is where I'm going to turn the tax cap calculation formula over to Ms. Wager, who can explain how this works, and then I'll come back and talk a little bit about the budget itself. Linda?
Thank you, Mr. Simons. The tax cap calculation is a multi-step calculation in order to arrive at the maximum percentage increase in dollar amount increase of the tax levy with what is called a simple majority vote of 50% plus 1. We start with the current year's tax levy. Our current year tax levy is $58,374,500. 546. And then we apply the tax base growth factor, which Mr. Simons explained is provided to us by the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance, and it accounts for the growth in the full value of taxable property within the district. So that is 1.34%. Then we add in the current year's pilot agreements. Pilot stands for payments in lieu of taxes. These are agreements that are made with businesses to entice businesses into our district, and they are made between the business and the Rensselaer County IDA, Industrial Development Agency. And essentially it allows them to come into, it entices them into the district, and it's basically at a discounted tax rate than they would otherwise pay. So we're going to add that back in, and we're going to subtract out our capital levy from last year. The capital levy is the difference between our debt service payments on our capital projects and the building aid that is coming in against those projects. So then to that, we apply an allowable levy growth factor. And this is where Mr. Simons explained we hear the 2% tax cap. And it is really the lesser of, at this step, 2% or the consumer price index, which for this calculation is 1.23% is the CPI. We apply that to it. And then we take out what we expect our pilot payments will be for next year. Our pilot payments next year are projected to be $6,640,755, which is a substantial increase from the current year. The reason for that is all of them go up a little bit, but there is one pilot with Regeneron on Temple Lane that is going from a payment that we received this year of $427,000 to over $1.9 million next year. So that accounts for the significant increase there. Then we come to a total tax levy limit before exclusions. And then we apply the capital levy, that exclusion for next year. And that will be the difference between our debt service payments and the aid that is coming in, both our building aid and the aid on the purchase of buses. So we come down to a tax levy limit plus exclusions of $59,126,575, which is 1.28% over the current year.
Thank you, Linda. So the information that we're going to present, including some of the expenditures that we've included within the budget, keep our budget right at that 1.28%. We will be striving between now and when the final budget is adopted by the board to have that be consistent with the pattern that we've shown over the last 7 years, that will be under the tax cap and be as low as we can make it. The 1.28% tax levy, however, yields approximately, correct me if I'm wrong, $790,000 of revenue, or
A
close.
little over 752,000.
752,000. So it is low in its percentage, but it spread over the levy itself, it does yield a fairly significant revenue. So back in January, the board was provided an opportunity to review the requests of our principals and our administrators. We categorize those requests into priority A, priority B, priority C. And as we did last year, we started the process by including some of those items. At the end of the process, some of these items may remain in the budget, some may not. It's all part of our assessment. We mentioned early on that we anticipate that students will be coming back from the experience of the last school year, the current school year, and really last spring with more needs than are typical in our district. So prior to COVID, academic intervention services was an area that we were working on, trying to make sure that we had sufficient AIS reading and math staff in our elementary schools to provide for those kids who qualify for that service. We think we're going to have, based on our current assessment of the students, Mr. McHugh is monitoring the need for more academic intervention services staff. So at the elementary level, it would be a total across all of the buildings of about 2.5 teachers. That's total across all of them. So it's about 0.5 per building, and it might vary with some of the larger buildings. We also have a growing population of children who are required by federal and state law to receive English as a new language services. The requirements changed a couple years ago in the way that we have to deliver that service with students that qualify, that they need direct services for more time. The board has made adjustments in this area over the course of the last couple of years as new requirements have come in and the number of families moving into East Greenbush whose children require these services has increased. I'm going to put Mr. McHugh on the spot right now. How many ENL teachers do we currently employ?
We currently have 5 ENL teachers in our district, 3 primarily at Janae Elementary School, 1 at Goff Middle School, and 1 at Columbia High School.
So about 15 years ago, it's my understanding, based on some of the reviews we've done, that we had 1 ENL teacher for the entire district. And that is because of the growth in the number of children that require that service. Goff Middle School, again, we anticipate needs for academic intervention growing. There is a need for both reading and math support, a 1.0 FTE for reading and a 0.6 for math. Additionally, the board will hear later on in the meeting about a new course for 6th graders that will involve computer skills. We're going to be able to provide this course without this additional request. So we put it in as a 0.05 CTE because we have a technology teacher currently who is a retiree working for the district. But under New York State regulations, we can provide to meet the CTE requirements at the middle school level with either a business certified teacher, a family consumer science certified teacher, or a technology teacher. So the technology teacher will be leaving, and we will be replacing that technology teacher with either a teacher in either one of those areas who's qualified under New York State to teach a computer skills course. The computer skills course would involve 6th grade and account for about a 0.05 FTE, which is really marginal because the technology teacher is leaving. And we have a program called Apex that provides for students in the summer or during the year that need to credit recovery, recover credits so that they are on track to pass their courses. This Apex program would be in addition to an in-person summer school program that we're going to be proposing at the next meeting. Additionally, we have a need for an item that was put into the long-range fiscal plan a couple of years ago, our K through 8 math resource. It's a textbook, but also it's an instructional technology resource to support math instruction, is in the budget at this point and is funded through textbook aid. So the district receives what's called categorical aid that can only be used for textbooks and software. So we have to put it in as an expenditure, but that expenditure to some degree is offset by the categorical aid that can only be spent in that area. Additionally, we are working on professional development with our teachers that has been provided by Questar, and there's some additional support that was included in the budget in prior years for more staff development. In the area of technology, we have upgraded our phone, our public address, our security systems, our smoke and fire alarm systems. Those systems have maintenance agreements that need to be renewed. Those are concluded in the contractual services portion of the budget. And Peter would like some professional development for his tech staff to continue to advance their skills and I'm going to do my best to try to explain the first item, which Peter has described to me as essential to make all of our instructional and our other student information system, financial information system play well together. Is that right, Peter? So basically it is expiring. It's the, Peter, you want to explain it?
The physical server behind all of that software.
Very good. So that's what's meant by the VMware system. It's necessary to make sure our programs are operating effectively. We learned in the fall of the success of our varsity girls golf program. We expect that the number of girls that are golfing is going to increase, hopefully when we get back to somewhat normal in the fall. Right now, we follow a model where our boys coach also coaches the girls. This is a limited expense. We think it would enhance the girls' program, and we've heard from some of our parents that we should move in this direction. The maintenance department has a schedule similar to the transportation department regarding the replacement of vehicles. We would propose to replace a Ford F-150 truck that is used for plowing. It is 1990.
It's a 2009 with 120,000 miles on it.
120,000 miles, 2009. I guess I'm showing my age when I go back to, when I think something's that old, and I go back to the 90s. So it was identified last year. We didn't put it in last year. Grounds department will tell you that it's always a hairy situation when they wake up on a snowy day, whether or not the trucks are going to be able to remove the snow. We may be able to, as Linda said earlier, when we adjust the fund balance in May, we may be able to buy that truck this year out of fund balance and remove it from the budget for next year. There is a heating system that needs to be updated in the transportation department that currently is not operating well. And the building condition survey, which is the required report that we have to file for the state that our architect does, that helps us to plan future capital projects, is a $50,000 expense that comes on the state schedule for next year. And we've had some problems with our software that is used to plan and track our busing routes, and we would like to include an update in the TransFinder system, which is the name of the software that we use. We've had some issues when the power went out that system wasn't working. The new system that we had would protect us against power outages. So turning to our revenues, we have already discussed a 1.28% tax levy increase. We project that next year the tax levy would yield for the district's budget approximately $59.1 million. We've talked about the payment in lieu of taxes agreements increasing the revenue in the category of the pilots from 4.8 million to 6.6. That's a 3.63% increase in monies that are coming through approved pilot agreements with the Rensselaer County Industrial Development Agency. We are projecting the state aid and the federal revenue a little bit differently than we have in years past, because you recall at an earlier meeting, Linda did a nice job of breaking down the governor's state aid run. The state aid that we're expecting to receive that is purely state money, foundation aid and expense-driven aids, is approximately $23.7 million, which is, in terms of the state, projected to be a negative 8.9% change. Is that correct, Linda?
That's correct. When the state indicates to us our state aid numbers, they include the federal aid in there, and so they always project it as an increase in state aid. So I wanted to break it out so that you could see state aid versus federal aid, so that really the state aid is a decrease of 8.9%, and the reason that it nets an increase is because of the federal aid.
Then you see the next category is the federal revenue, which is an increase of 102.5%, receiving approximately $3.9 million next year, that includes monies that have been already approved and included within the governor's budget. So CARES monies approved last year that we assume we're going to receive, the second round of additional federal monies. This projection does not include the recently passed, I think it passed today, $1.9 trillion federal package. So we would expect that the federal monies may increase even further. We don't know whether those federal monies will flow through the state, and then the state will decide how to distribute that to schools. We don't know how that would be distributed, but we would anticipate that we will get some monies because the state is getting approximately $12.6 billion in federal help for state and local governments. It's important to know, however, that our projections already include, and the governor's projections already included, $6 billion of that. Is that correct? So the situation regarding federal aid in the state is looking better right now than it had in October, but we don't know those numbers yet. But this is based on the governor's estimates and not any new money that's recently been approved in Washington. Interfund transfers are typical adjustments that are made to our revenues. So the total revenues are projected, including an appropriation of $6.8 million to fund the budget, which has been the 6.8 that we have appropriated last year and in the year prior, brings our total revenue projection to $102,437,768, and that's the revenue side of the budget. As we look at expenditures, it's important for everyone to understand that approximately 70 to 75% of a school district budget is in staffing costs. It's in the salaries, the benefits, which include health insurance and retirement payments to New York State. So when we look at the budget for salaries, it's important that those are a reflection of the current number of employees that we have, instructional and non-instructional, across all groups. So we're projecting that the salaries will go up to $52.5 million next year, and we have identified those salaries that are associated with temporary staff that have been hired to support the requirements under COVID of the state, which include the full remote option, the teachers that are teaching in that full remote option right now, and the teaching assistants that are supporting that full remote option by supervising classes, and also the accommodations of staff that are working remotely. So we don't know whether or not that $859,977,000 will reflect costs that we will incur in September, but we put it into the budget, but we wanted to separate it out. We don't know whether that will be a requirement next year. So there is the potential to save some of that money and to pull it out of the budget at some point. Additionally, we looked at equipment, contractual expenses, our budget for supplies, software remaining relatively flat. Tuitions are programs for which we pay for certain special education students to attend out-of-district programs. Special education programs that we don't provide. We do provide a full complement of those programs. However, there are some specialized needs of our kids that can't be served in the district. We also collect money in terms of tuition on the revenue side of the budget because we offer more special education programs than some other smaller districts are able to do. Textbooks, BOCES services, which you did receive a copy of the BOCES budget at a prior meeting, and BOCES will be coming to our meeting. I remember that date? On May 26th to talk about Questar's programs, and then our benefits and our debt service. You see that our debt service payments are increasing. It's important to also emphasize that those debt service payments are offset by building aid that flows into the district on the revenue side. So while you see an increase there, it's important we know we get revenue back on our prior capital projects. So budget to budget, and again, this is a work in progress. Our budget is projected to be 103.9 million next year, with approximately 1,029,000 of those expenses unknowns, because those are associated with the current hybrid and the requirements. Peter's asking me to move back because I'm not on camera. Future considerations. We have yet to finalize our state and federal aid. Typically, the budget of the state is passed on April 1st. Usually is passed on the weekend right before April 1st, so we'll know that information in a few weeks. We also don't have guidance on how some of those federal monies will have to be spent or how the state will distribute those monies. We have not yet finalized our health insurance rates. So our rates for our prescription as well as our health insurance plans are projected right now. We need to finalize those as well as other insurances that the district carries. We may anticipate increases in the number of students who may go for special education programs at BOCES. We pay tuition for those programs, and we have yet to finalize our enrollment. So this is our starting point. We will continue to discuss the budget with our board. This is our first budget review session. We will have an update on March 24th. We also want to remind members of the public that, including our incumbents, that our board candidate petitions are available. There may be some modifications regarding the petition requirements considered by the state, but we don't know exactly. That may affect the number of signatures that people need to obtain. We do anticipate board adoption of the proposed plan that will go out to the community on April 14th. And the deadline for board candidates to submit the petitions is April 19th, unless the state changes the calendar. And the budget vote will come back to the third Tuesday in May, and the board election on May 18th. So that's our preliminary budget. I'm sorry for the length of the presentation. We thought we should get all the information out here for discussion, and I'll take any questions, concerns, or ideas from the board at this time.
Okay, we'll give Mr. Simons a chance to get back to his table. Is there any questions, clarification needed that we can provide board members, suggestions on what's been proposed, the priority items, things like that? So anyone right now? Mark.
First of all, Jeff, thank you for the presentation. I just want to make sure that, you know, we are mindful of the circumstances that our country is still in. Prices are continuing to go up on the outside. I've seen a lot of high dollar items on our budget. You know, I heard words like increases in revenue, decreases in state aid. You know, just because we're getting some increases in revenue, you know, I don't think that we want to just automatically go out there and try to spend it. I really want us to take a look at some of these high dollar items and decide whether that they're really going to be fiscally responsible for us to implement. It's going to take a couple years for, you know, our country to get back to some type of normalcy. You know, there's businesses aren't giving raises. People are, you know, are still out of work. We need to be mindful of that. And I want to make sure that we're mindful of that before we start implementing, you know, a lot of these high dollar items. And we as a board spoke a couple of years ago at the Red Mill School about taking a look at a 5-year plan and setting future boards up for success. Probably not, you know, this board. And, you know, we're at that $100 million budget that we discussed a couple of years back. And I think that's something that we really need to focus on I know preliminary numbers right now. We don't know what we're getting. I just really want us to take a strong look at, some high dollar items, that we're proposing here
Mhm.
to see if that, in fact, there's other ways we can work
Mhm.
around some of those.
I appreciate the comments, Mark. We are looking at the expenditure side of the budget more closely. One of the factors that contributed us putting those, for example, those A items in there is we know that the need for the AIS is going to be there, and it may be a case where if we looked at some of the federal information that is available on the bill, some of those monies are saying that monies need to be spent on academic learning gaps and some of those other areas. So if we get those monies, there may be some of those federal dollars that may not necessarily, I don't know this yet, flow into the general fund budget. It may be separate, like our Title I is. And so maybe some of those programs, those extra staff that we're talking about could shift out of the budget, lower the budget number, budget to budget that you talked about. The other thing is we are looking closely at years past audits and the fund balance projection report, for example, that you received this evening. And we'll have a better indication of available reserves and monies that may give us a level of confidence to have a little tighter budget than what we've had in the past. And we just don't have all that information yet. So Linda and I have talked a couple of times about trying to get that tax levy increase as close to zero as possible this year because of the unique circumstances. We don't know whether we can get there yet, but we're working on it.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
I just want us to be mindful.
We are.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. John?
Just a couple of comments. There was a good presentation, and Linda, I want to specifically thank you for crunching the numbers. This was a lot of work for you this meeting, but it does give the community a really good snapshot of at least what we're thinking and where we're trying to go, and in a realistic sense, instead of an inflated number and then we play the wrangling game at the end. I made a couple of notes, so bear with me. My biggest concern as we move forward is what the impact of COVID is going to be to our students, and how do we provide service and how do we pay for it. So I guess, do you think in this federal monies that has there been any conversation around summer schools to be targeted for aidable monies? Because it's self-evident that the demand for service for our students is going to be probably double and triple what it has been in the same period in a normal year. Have you heard it? Do you think
The legislation itself does mention summer school, summer learning programs, and other programs of that nature. So yeah, and the program that Jim is going to share, we're talking about something similar to what was done in the past here in East Greenbush, but not as full scale as that. It could cost probably, I won't hold you to it, Jim, $150,000 to staff elementary, middle, and high school summer school program. Some of those federal dollars could be used for that, and we're hoping that wouldn't necessarily be an add-in to this budget.
Okay, and the other factor that I was thinking about, and knowing that we are going to have a academic impact for all students to some degree, and when we go back to school, there's going to be an impact to the system, even on the social end of it, as far as our school psychologists, our social workers, and our counselors, because the reentry burn for a lot of these kids is probably going to be pretty severe, I would assume. So in all the tracking that we're doing, if we could, Jim, in the next couple of presentations, try to do a projection of some of those additional services that are going to be required to support the academic component of it. Because from where I'm looking at this, there are kids now who never had the need for the social interventions, social service interventions, that are having them now, and it really doesn't, it's not tied to academics because of the deprivation of social conductivity amongst our students. So I think we want to make sure that in part of our budgeting that we at least start looking at that part of it, because then there's no surprise in the fall when the numbers go through the roof. It's easy to look at the grades and say, okay, we need this, this, and this. But I think maybe if we pool our team of soft underbelly people to try to figure out what they're thinking and projection and what the mood of the future could be. So thank you for that.
Thank you, John. Thanks, John. I'll stay in here first. Frank or Deanne, any questions and follow-up questions to the budget at this point? Okay, very good. I think, Michelle, I saw you.
Yep.
Yes, go ahead.
So I do want to echo what John and Mark said. I mean, this is an excellent presentation at an unbelievably tough time. So thank you for all the work that you guys have done to put this together. I agree with John. I'd like to see, or at least investigate putting some earmark money in the high priority categories for future impacts related to COVID into our students, into regents, those kinds of New York State tests that we're going to experience, and trying to get our kids back up for that in 21, 22. And then the second question I had was related to the FEMA money. And I think we said that we put it in for 2020, or I'm sorry, 2021, or did we put it into this budget? Because chances are we're not going to get FEMA money quickly.
We submitted an application for $311,000 in December to FEMA. We have not received feedback on it. I did follow up with them, and I received an email today telling us that basically the review may take a couple of months, and then they may come back with some questions, and then there is a 90-day period in which to answer those questions and submit it. So I have accounted for revenue in this year. As I said, the application was for $311,000, and that was for expenses through September 14th. So we're currently working on our second FEMA application. So in the fund balance projection, I included $250,000 of FEMA money this year. And I do expect to, at least if I don't have the cash by the end of this year, record it as a receivable, because it is it has to do with the expenses that we've received this year. That are associated with the COVID
that makes
expense.
sense. I do worry that we're not gonna get easily reimbursable for that. FEMA is very, very tough on being reimbursed. So I don't want to count it. I don't want to count it too much and then have not have it come in. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you. I will. As I said, I tried to be conservative on that.
Yep, perfect. Thank you. And again, excellent job. I appreciate it. It really allows the community to start, looking at what they're seeing, not from a financial impact only, but also what the kids are going to be able to experience when, hopefully we pull them back full time in the fall.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Joanne or Kathleen, anything? Kathleen?
Yeah, again, excellent job, Jeff. I am a little concerned about the drop in the state aid. And I mean, it's being made up this year, but I do think that's something we definitely have to keep an eye on, because we're not going to always be able to count on federal money. And that's something that we're definitely going to have to watch in the future, because a nearly 9% decrease in state aid would be detrimental in future years.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're hearing, I think Linda's hearing through ASBO, which is the Business Officials Associates, and we're hearing through others that the governor may use some of those federal monies to project out next year and the subsequent year, reserve some of those monies to deal with that very issue. Now, whether or not he would reserve those monies and tell us that we have a 2-year plan, which he has done in the past. He has
Yeah.
done 2-year state aid projections in the past, or whether he would just hold that money in the state coffers and let us know later. We don't know, but we're hearing his thinking is that not take all that federal money and lay it out, reserve some of it for future years, which would be good fiscal planning. You heard that, right, Linda?
I did hear that. And the other thing is, it would be an amount that would be very hard to spend actually in a year and stay within our fund balance restrictions. So yeah, what I'm hearing is that this federal aid may apply to multi-years, not just next year.
That's actually really good to hear because as several people have pointed out, it's going to take time and it would be nice to have a little bit, know that there's something coming for future budgets also.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Very good. Jennifer, do you have anything?
I was just going to say, excellent presentation and thank you to everyone who worked on it. Linda, I mean, you're doing a fantastic job of getting us some of that additional detail and information. And I echo a lot of what's already been said. In the NISBA alert that just came out about what was passed today, there is some information or preliminary information, right, that they will focus in on education loss as part of that funding, but what that looks like and what that really means and how long it takes for them to get that out to all of us for the budget cycle will be interesting, but certainly something I guess that we all need to keep an eye on as far as what that might mean for us in New York State in particular, and certainly here, right, on our local level, because we want to make sure. But I do agree that I think we need to look at some of the additional support services as students are transitioning back into the classroom and what those needs are going to be, not only for the students, but also the families, and making sure that we do keep that in mind and perhaps try to build in some additional resources where we can, because we know it will be a tough and challenging time for many. And just want to make sure that people have access and accessibility to those resources and services if we can at all build that in or earmark some additional ways to support families. It's been a challenging year all around, but then again, right, we're asking people to once again, right, transition. And it's a lot. It's a lot for the staff. It's a lot for the students. It's a lot for the families. So again, thank you very much. It was an amazing presentation tonight. Again, during a very, very difficult time when you were also trying to work on all these other challenges. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. Joanne, anything?
Thank you for the presentation. We got a lot of detail tonight that we need in the community. Very much appreciated. Just a quick question. Have we gotten any guidance regarding in-person voting?
Question was in-person voting, anything?
We haven't received anything in writing. It's our understanding, unless Linda has, but it was my understanding from my last conversation with the state school superintendents is that they expect that the normal way of voting in person will resume. It'll be on Tuesday, May 18th. And the School Boards Association and the Superintendent's Council have proposed that COVID-related concerns be added as a reason, permissible reason to request an absentee ballot, that likely would occur, and you go back to a situation where people have to fill out an application for an absentee ballot, receive the absentee ballot, and then turn it in, but most people would vote in person. And then I'll ask you if you've heard anything different from ASBO.
That's exactly what I've heard.
Okay.
And the other thing that I've heard in regards to, we talked about the candidates and the signatures required, is that being that last year there was such such a voter turnout, it would have required something like 144 signatures this year. And so they're going back to the 2019, May 2019 vote. So that would have been for the following year, for the 1920 budget vote. So I went back and looked at that. And so we're going to require 34 signatures this year.
Thank you, Linda. Just a couple comments. I think as more information comes out, I'll be looking forward to the March 24th meeting. Everyone made some excellent points. I do want to also emphasize that John and I believe Jennifer said about the social emotional needs of our students, perhaps partnering with our county, who is also going to receive significant federal aid and direct payments to local governments, that we could work with them. Hopefully there's monies available through that process like we do now with our county social worker or mental health person to do that. And also the just continue to provide us with the data that's necessary to support the academic information services. We did retain our AIS teachers this year for that purpose, to help address those gaps. And if we're going to add on top of those existing positions, we just have to know what's the data to support the ongoing needs. We know there's the ongoing needs are going to be there, just to make sure we have the data to support and target those elementary students.
Excellent.
Okay. I do worry that we have some populations of students too that have not been in a classroom since March of last year, and that's a significant number of our students went remote and have stayed remote, and that adjustment is going to be very, very significant for themselves and their families. All right. Any final thoughts?
I would just say if board members want to, if you have time and you take a closer look at the budget proposal and you have questions, just email me or Linda and we'll be happy to get the answers. It'll help us prepare for the next meeting. We also typically hand out a line by line budget. We didn't do that because we were still waiting for some other information, but we expect that would happen on March 24th. Yep. So you'll be able a chance to look at every category of the budget line by line.
Very good. And I know for those of you who've been here before, and I think John or Mark mentioned it, we are used to separate budget workshops that show us some unbelievable numbers, and we appreciate the sharpening of the pencil on the first go around. So it's much appreciated. Thank you.
Our projected costs are more closer to actual at this point in the year. They're not actually where they might land, but they're closer to actual than what they typically are at this time of year.
Great.
Is that accurate to say, Linda?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
I always want to make sure. I always ask afterwards
check.
if what I'm saying is
accurate.
Can be confirmed by Linda's fine pencil.
Thanks to all involved in the presentation. Much appreciated. Looking forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Any other reports and presentations?
I don't think we have any more at this time.
Okay. Very good. Table motions. I don't have anything. Old business, board members, anything to bring up? No? Okay. Moving to our consent agenda, we have items A through J. Any questions, comments regarding the consent items? I don't see anyone. If there's none, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Michelle, second. Kathleen, all those in favor? Approved. New business. You've been patiently waiting, Jim, when the team at Goff, I think, are they helping out in this presentation? Yeah. Thank you for your patience, and we'll move to new business, the Encore course proposal for Howard L. Goff. Jim and team, thanks.
So in the spring of 2020, we asked the Goff Middle School administrative team to take a deeper look at the New York State Education Department middle school requirements and see if there were some opportunities, some areas where we may be able to enhance our course offerings to our middle school students. And the purpose was kind of twofold. We were looking for opportunities, but we also had a very challenging time over the last several years to secure certified teachers in particular areas. So it was a scramble every spring to try to find certified teachers for some of our encore subjects. And we wanted to put the district in a better position to be able to offer a wide variety of courses that are meaningful to our students and be able to have certified teachers to teach those classes. So our administrative team went to work on it. This has been a topic that they presented to our education committee. They made a presentation to our committee for curriculum study, and they're going to present tonight. After tonight, if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer those questions, but it'll be on a future board meeting looking for board approval so that we can move forward in that planning. So at this time, I turn it over to Joe Barker, Sarah Hoffman, and Michael Newman.
Thank you, Mr. McHugh. Appreciate the opportunity to speak about the work that we've done at the middle school to look at our course offerings. I have a short presentation that I'll take you through to kind of take you through the steps and some of the research that we've done. And at the end, we'll have our proposal. So I'll present my screen as of now. Okay. So as Mr. McHugh said, we were tasked with taking a look at our current course offerings in CTE and the effectiveness of those courses. And in that review, what we followed the three steps really. We consulted with Rita Silico of the CTE Assistant Center of New York to discuss certifications and curriculum options, to kind of talk with her about what other school districts might be doing and seeing if we were in line with those other school districts and if there was any opportunity that existed. Additionally, then we took a look at our course offerings by grade level, and then we conducted a review of grades 6 to 8 with other neighboring middle school districts. And when we did this, we obviously took a look at what we were offering and made sure that we were aligned with the middle school requirements, New York State middle school requirements, with one unit equals 1 year of enrollment. So we are certainly in line with our health, business, facts, and technology. We're actually offering an extra quarter unit of art in our building. So what we did was we took a look at the following school districts to see what is their delivery model in CTE. And while each school district had a different delivery model, obviously each middle school is following the New York State guidelines, but we did see some opportunity to maybe look at how we could do things differently. And one of the things that we did find out when we dug a little bit deeper in the courses that are being offered in our neighboring school districts is that there was an opportunity for us to offer some additional instruction in digital literacy and technology literacy. And this is just really a comparison to help us really get a feel for, are we offering the right courses to the right grade level? Are we offering the right frequency? Or should we look at maybe doing things differently? What we found is that what we're currently doing and how we're offering our encore classes makes sense for us at the middle school here. But what we did see is an opportunity to expand our instruction in digital literacy, citizenship, technological, and computer literacy, develop students' knowledge and skills in the following areas. And these are just a few areas that we found that we had an opportunity to really expand instruction. One of them is using the Google Suite applications. While our students are in Google Classroom, they do not get any specific instruction on how to use slides, docs, or sheets. So that was certainly an opportunity for us to really grow kids in that area so that they would be able to utilize school skills as they become tasked with having to present and do presentations, etc. Web page design, how to write an email properly. Many kids are using big text and use one word, but do they know how to write a proper email? Keyboarding skills are still an area of opportunity for our kids. We still have a lot of finger typing and certainly an opportunity to grow that. Media balance and well-being, like talking to kids about screen time and balancing that. As you know, many students, especially teens, spend a lot of time on their computers or their phones, and really talking to them about the impact of having so much screen time and their impact both from a physical well-being, but also emotional, social well-being. Additionally, we like to talk to kids about safety. Deputy Russo has done some work with internet safety, and we've certainly had speakers in the middle school about privacy and security, and in making sure the kids understand that when they put something out in social media, it's there forever. And and with the law, what it can mean in terms of the law for them and for their parents. and also like there's a digital footprint out there and what that means for kids. And also a lot about the social media in middle school. As you know, it is a time where kids are trying to figure out who they are and developing relationships, and we tend to have a lot of bullying taking place, and a lot of it is through the social media. So talking to kids more about that, and then from a more educational standpoint, looking at news sources. Much of what they read, sometimes they believe everything they read, and talking about credible versus non-credible sources, and being careful about believing everything that you read, and what is a credible source versus a non-credible. And in addition to that, continuing along with the coding and robotics components that we already have in our technology curriculum. So what we were proposing to do after seeing this opportunity that exists in our middle school is to offer a 10-week course that would provide sixth graders with a foundational knowledge to become academically and technologically more literate, to enhance their performance in all middle school disciplines. And so what the course would do, it would emphasize 21st century skills in order to develop skills related to ELA, math, science, social studies, and technology standards. But again, maintaining the work that's already been done on the curriculum. There's been a lot of work done in technology in the CT curriculum development that we want to make sure that we hold on to, and then we make sure that we're still preparing students for technology too, by keeping the coding, computer coding and robotics within the curriculum, but adding some additional items for kids to develop their digital literacy skills and citizenship. So this also, the other thing this course does is allow us to continue to support the 6 through 12 continuum in CTE. It supports the restructuring of the technology and engineering courses at Columbia High School. By implementing digital computer skills at the middle school will help us to restructure some of the high school level courses. And in speaking with Donna Shepherdson in the business department at the high school, they tend to have to teach a lot of the skills that we could actually start teaching down at the middle school, which will allow them to focus on other areas and develop their courses there, if we could get some of the fundamental skills taken care of at our level. And the courses also be aligned with careers, where most careers are asking for some computer competency, and so that would certainly address those needs. And then at the end of the day, they would have a stronger knowledge base as they entered into high school by the offering of this course. What it also does is it allows us to expand our certification requirements. Right now, as Mr. McHugh had stated, it's really, really difficult to find teachers that have technology certification. And so this course would allow us to look at 3 different certification areas. It would allow us to look at, technology, facts, or business. So that would expand our pool of applicants. And so that would open up the opportunity to acquire higher talent. And then it also would, so as I said, it would address the issues we've had in the past with finding technology teachers. So what we're proposing to do, we have a 20-week course offering in 6th grade in technology. We had Technology 1 and Technology 2. What we'd like to do is take Technology 1 while maintaining and then keeping the coding and robotics, but also look at restructuring the curriculum and looking at some of the developing the skills in the curriculum centered around competencies in digital literacy and citizenship. So in summary, what we will do is we will offer the fundamental skills I discussed earlier. Allows us to expand our certification areas, and it prepares kids better to enter into the high school. Sarah, Mike, is there anything that you would like to add that I may have not mentioned in the work that we've done?
Nope, I think you covered everything.
Does anybody have any questions?
Just 2 quick comments. One, just recognizing the fact that strategically we revamped the middle school tech curriculum. That was done over a 3-year period. It was done in a strategic manner where we revamped that curriculum. We made sure that our teachers had the resources that they needed. There's a coding element in that middle school technology curriculum. We're not losing any of that. So this is really supplanting a little bit of computer literacy skills. It was really well received by faculty. Even our high school teachers assume that those skills are almost a prerequisite, that those skills have been taught and the students have mastered them by the time they enter Columbia High School, and they're not. but when you go back and you look at our curriculum, they're never officially taught anywhere. So that this would address that concern as well. Any questions from any of our board members for our middle school administrators?
I think it's the right direction to go in. I just wanted to ask a question. Do we have any input from either our parents or students in the transition from 5th to 6th? That these are the skills that, what is the focus going to be in terms of the skills where we've gone through a lot of, obviously, the remote learning process, hybrid model, things like that. Students have picked up skills. I don't know what those skills are. Sometimes is it the hunt and peck? Is it the, using the mouse? Is it, so like I think Ms. Barker said, they know Google Classroom, but do they know the applications within the Google Suite and how to really utilize them effectively for their learning and for their assignments? Do you have a sense of kind of where kids are? I mean, or what their interest level is in something like this? From parents? Just a question. If it's something we could look into, we don't have the information now, but just to guide us a little more. It's definitely the right direction in my mind.
We have not. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just have one other question, Jill, is like, so we're not eliminating anything that we're teaching them now, right? But then how are we filling it in, or what are we streamlining in our teaching that's going to give us room to put this other 10 weeks in?
John Cirencioni, who has done a lot of the curriculum work in CTE and really developed the coding and robotics, is going to be working closely with Donna Shepherdson from the high school. And together they put a curriculum proposal into Mr. McHugh. And together, obviously, with administration being involved, they're going to really look at where they could streamline certain things, what could be moved into Tech 2 potentially. And they're just going to tighten up the curriculum. And so there's work to be done. It's a great question because where does that come from? So, but they've already had a lot of conversation. The proposal that they're submitting for approval for curriculum writing, it really is taking a hard look at the things that are the must-haves and what could be some areas that they could remove or move to Tech 2 to really embed some of these things we talked about. To answer your question, Mr. Buno, we have not asked 5th grade students or parents about what they might like to see. What I've really done is had a lot of conversation with Donna Shepherdson in the business department at the high school, and we've had numerous conversations about skills that are lacking when kids come into the high school. And so they spend a lot of time really teaching them some very fundamental skills, and it would be aligned with the Google Suite. Whereas if they came into the high school with those already in place, they could be focusing on other things at the high school level.
Sure. Yep. Very good. All right. Any other questions, board members?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. Thank you for that clarification, Jill, for jumping in with that, because I know we had that conversation at our committee meeting. I can't believe, was that last year already? Where we were having the dialogue and the discussion. I think this is a great option and a great plan for kind of putting some of these fundamental pieces at a younger age so that they can then have those foundation or foundational skills to be able to then build upon and get them ready for that either career transition or college readiness that seems to be lacking, and the feedback that we've talked about at the Education Committee. So thank you for continuing to do the work and push these initiatives forward. To you and your team. I know there's been a lot of people involved and a lot of discussion and working with our consultant and Mr. McHugh. So thank you to all of you, and thanks Mr. McHugh as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Massey.
All right. Jim, next steps? The board?
I believe it will go on a consent agenda. Is that how that works, Mr. Simons?
Next,
Yes.
March 24th we're proposing?
Yes.
Okay.
And everything is budget dependent.
Very good. Of course. Mark?
That would be my question. Is there a budgetary increase in this?
There is not. So currently, you probably remember how many times we posted for a certified technology teacher, and we've had no luck. And I know we've been in panic mode each spring. I know Mr. Newman was definitely in panic mode last spring. We actually have a certified tech teacher that came out of retirement that we had to file a waiver for. So this sets us up better. We have to replace that current part-time technology teacher that we filed the waiver for and post again. But what it does allow us to do is we don't necessarily just have to hire a certified tech teacher. We could hire anyone that's certified in CTE to fill that part-time just by embedding the 10-week digital literacy component into the grade 6 technology.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate the presentation and look forward to the follow-up. The next item of our new business is the tax litigation for Alexis Diner. Any clarification, Linda, on that?
No, this has to do with a tax litigation filed this year regarding McGuile Corporation, which we all know as Alexis Diner, in the town of North Greenbush. So they filed a litigation to request a reduction in assessment that would have resulted in a refund this year of approximately $8,135 for this 2020 tax year. And under this proposed settlement, they've agreed to discontinue that along with a pending in exchange for a reduction in assessment from $260,000 to $240,000 for the 2021 school year. That will result in a refund of approximately $2,180. And then a further reduction in assessment moving forward starting next year to $210,000. So calculating using the same rate as this year, the reduction in assessment to $210,000 would be approximately $3,250 reduction for them. That would then be spread over the remainder of the tax levy.
Any questions on the proposed tax litigation settlement?
Mike, I have no questions, but I just want to point out that although it is a tax reduction for us, that business is very supportive of the East Greenbush School District, the Ed Foundation.
Yep.
My interaction with them is that they are more than willing to do for our children. Just like to keep that in mind.
Thank you, Joanne. Duly noted, and yes, I'm a fan of Alexis Diner as well. So any other questions? I need a motion to approve the tax litigation settlement. Kathleen, second. John, all those in favor? All those opposed? I don't see anybody. Approved. Thank you very much. So we can let them know that's been approved by the board. The next part of our agenda is to move to the public forum number 2. Linda, do we have any emails or comments at this point?
There are no public comments.
Very good. Thank you. If there are community input, obviously we have our board email published and available for the public to weigh in on. Moving to our second board forum, I'll start with our board members that are virtual. Joanne, we'll start with you. Anything as a follow-up? Thumbs up, good. Kathleen? No? Michelle, anything? You're good? Jennifer, I don't see you on the board. Are you still there? She's left the meeting, okay. Then we'll start with Frank. Do you have anything? Nothing? Deanna? No? Marcus, good? And John, anything? You're good. All right, and I am as well. Very, very productive meeting. Thank you, everyone. A lot of information shared with our community regarding school reopening, advocacy, budget, all tied in together. So we hope you found it productive for you as well. And with that, we do need an executive session for purposes of discussion of personnel issues. We'll do a separate email invite to the board members to attend that Google Meet. And we don't anticipate any business after the board meeting. So everyone have a great night. Thank you for your participation. And we look forward to more budget information in the coming weeks and information to share about the reopening. So let's hope for good news out of the state as we move forward. So thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you, everybody.